what they say? They say if you don't like the weather in Wisconsin, stay around for a few hours, it'll change, right?
That seems to be especially true this time of year.
We had snow, let's see, we probably had a half an inch to an inch of snow overnight. And this morning at about 7 o'clock, when it got light, fully light, I was looking outside. I thought, I'm going to get some pictures of this because, it's April 8th. That's not totally unusual for Wisconsin, but it's unusual enough that I thought, well, let's take some pictures. So like in post, I think we're going to try to post those pictures, right?
Yeah, we'll probably post them right when we're talking about it right here. So
what I was
you'll
thinking,
get to see our backyard. And
yeah, what I was thinking is I would look like I'm really together, like I really know what I'm doing technologically, and I would point, Damon, let's get this down. I'm going to point, and then the picture is going to be right over here. It's going to slide in, all right? And there will be a picture of...
he's going to have to focus on that.
There'll be a picture of our backyard to the southwest, and then a picture, I'll say, here's one to the southeast, and then there's one looking down our street to the west, and I'll point, and it'll come in on something fancy, so it looks like I'm really smart, and
with
I really know what I'm
thunder
doing.
and lightning.
Well, maybe. Well, there wasn't thunder and lightning, but nevertheless.
Sorry.
And then there's a picture down in the Lions Club Park where you guys play baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took a picture kind of from home plate looking out to the outfield, and there's snow. It's kind of pretty. It was a beautiful day.
Yeah, and our season starts in almost a month.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We're going to need the field to dry up a little bit so we can practice and stuff like that.
So you're going to, you're going to go fishing tonight?
Yep, I'm going fishing tonight at the river, hopefully catch some spawning walleye, and going to have to stay warm. So.
And the boys, Jonathan, Drew, and Joe, are having some friends over for some supper tonight. So it's going to be DeMond and I and Deshaun and Mom hanging out. We're having stir fry. That's Deshaun's favorite meal.
Stir fry.
Yeah.
Yummy.
So that'll be good. What do we got going on our second This is our second podcast.
Yep, it is. And we'll talk about that more later.
It just seems like we just started this podcast.
That would be true. Yeah.
I guess we have.
2 in.
So
we've got your Todd's tips as usual. Yeah. And then we've got the second part of the Bill DeWees interview.
By the way, I hope I'm not too controversial in my Todd's tips today.
Well, we'll edit them out if they are for the faint of heart, or if the people just can't hang around for it, they'll just have to close their ears or something like that.
Well, I'll try not to be.
Anyway, take all of your kids out of the room.
We'll have a countdown. This is going to get ugly. So then there's that, and Bill
DeWees' second part of the interview.
Yep.
And then we've got our weeks in review, and then John will be back. You guys met him last week, and he'll be on the couch.
Yeah.
We got another microphone, but we don't have another camera. So you'll just be hearing this floating voice in the background.
Well, we're building, I guess we're kind of
slowly.
building slowly, because that's all the money we have.
Yeah. That's all we've got. That's all we've been allotted for this. So
that's our budget.
Well, why don't we get right to it?
Sounds good.
Hey, this is Bill DeWees, pro voiceover talent and voiceover career coach. And this is the original Father-Son Voiceover Podcast.
Hello. We are back with our second podcast of the original Father-Son Voiceover Podcast, a place where father and son talk about all things voiceover and maybe a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got an exciting podcast for you. Like I said, it's our second episode. So we're going to start out with Todd's tips. So why don't you give us what you're thinking about today?
Just let me introduce myself. I'm Todd. I'm the dad. I don't know if people
Sorry,
can...
I forgot to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm Hudson. I'm the son.
As if they can't tell, right?
Yeah.
Well, what I want to share today is something that I guess it might, I don't know. It's not controversial to me, but it might get me into some hot water. I don't know. But I'm just asking you before I talk about this. Maybe you'll say, that's not that big of a deal to me, but maybe you'll say, I don't like that very much, or wow, that's kind of controversial. Just listen carefully and just take a little time to think about it. If you disagree, that's fine. Like I always say, your business is your business. Do it the way you think you need to do it and the way it works best for you. These are just things that I think about and have learned over 12 years and put into practice, and it seemed to it works for me. So I don't know if it works for everybody. So if you disagree, that's fine. Take your time, think about it. You can feedback. You can let us know. We don't mind that. And the other thing is, just as a caveat, I don't know everything, obviously. And so these are just things that work for me. And again, they might not work for you. So with that out of the way, I'm going to use these little cheat sheets here because I just want to stay on track, on task, and make sure that I don't wander too far off and get myself into more trouble. So here's the thing. Sometimes I wonder to myself, despite building a successful voiceover business over the past 12 years, these are some thoughts that I have. Is my voiceover career silently behind the scenes, ready to kind of careen off the tracks? Am I heading toward a kind of a cliff of a major slowdown in VO work or attracting new clients? Am I in danger of thinking that all is going just smoothly when in reality, the, quote, termites of bad business practices will soon send my thriving VO business spiraling down, crashing down around me? Well, what am I referring to? Well, let me give you some examples. Take, for instance, my website. It's old and it's tired and it's out of date. Some VO coaches would look at it and they would say, there's no way that you can run a successful business with that, without a solid, up-to-date website to drive potential clients to. And, they'd probably be right in a lot of ways. I need to do a refresh on my website badly. You don't even have a website.
I don't,
yet,
yes.
Which I'm not saying that's a good thing.
I should probably get one, even though it's not out of date like yours would. You've at least got one.
Yeah, true.
I don't have one, so.
I haven't refreshed mine in like 7 or 8 years because it doesn't seem to affect me. Maybe my website is affecting me in ways I'll never know, but right now I'm as busy as I want to be, and I can be. There's also this. What about my Fiverr gig? And I say gig. Notice that I said gig, not gigs. Yes, I only have one Fiverr gig. I think I'd probably in some ways be harangued by the Fiverr coaches and experts who constantly preach multiple gigs and then fiddling with your profiles and updating things constantly and kind of working the algorithm and stuff like that. And I might deserve that. I might deserve, a talking to, because maybe I could do a lot more on Fiverr than I am right now. Last year, I made over $112,000 on Fiverr, and I'm as busy as I want to be. In fact, sometimes I'd like to talk about this. In fact, I don't want Fiverr. It can be a little bit of a tiger, and it can start to eat up your income streams and get you so busy that it becomes the only thing that you do. And I get nervous for myself and for other people that just have that as their income stream. You understand what I'm saying?
No, that you don't want to be reliant on one, because if something happens with Fiverr, then you're up a creek or whatever, you're out of luck.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I understand that. Yeah.
And then there's my DIY demos that are at least 3 years old. Seems like some VO gurus would tell me I'm nuts for not having a pro demo that's more up to date. After all, our demos are our calling cards. They're often our selling points, sometimes our only kind of selling points. And I say, of course, that's true. All of that's true. And I think they'd be right again. But I seem to keep busy, and my business seems to keep growing year after year. Now, I'm going to stop here for a second before I go on. That's kind of the start of this. Please, please, please don't go away from here saying, Todd says we don't need a website. Or Todd says we should only have one gig and then we'll always make over $100,000 on Fiverr. Or Todd says, don't worry about your demos. They don't really make a difference. Please don't do that. I'll just be run out of the VO business, and rightfully so if I said that, because that goes against everything. Mm-hmm. I don't care what kind of business model you have in voiceover. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not coming to any rock solid conclusion here. I'm just kind of wondering out loud and asking you and anybody that watches this to kind of wonder with me, kind of put our hands to our chin and say, how can this be? I have to be in for a great fall, business-wise. I just have to be. All of these things seem to be just not right. I guess only time will tell. But then my mind comes to this question, and here's my point of all of this. I hope you're following. Here's my question. Is building and growing a business and then maintaining a growing business over many years more about having the right mindset and developing a simple, solid business plan that works, and then daily working that business plan that works without getting bored or tired or off track or flailing when things get difficult? More important than having a sparkling new website, out-of-site demos, the latest, greatest equipment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now that sounds a little bit like VO heresy to me, but I think it's something worth thinking about. And I've been thinking a lot about that. It's not that I'm being lazy, and I'm not trying to have my business fail at all. Let me just repeat that as I kind of close things out here. Is building and growing a business and then maintaining a growing business over many years more about having the right mindset and developing a simple, solid business plan that works, and then daily working that business plan that works without getting bored or tired or off track or flailing when things get difficult, more important than having a sparkling new website, out-of-site demos, the latest, greatest equipment, et cetera, et cetera. Again, my point isn't don't go out and have a good website. I think you should have a website, or only have one Fiverr gig. Maybe you need multiple Fiverr gigs. Maybe I'm going to find out I'm going to need another one or two. And don't let your demos get out of date because mine are out of date. I probably need to work on that a little bit. My point is, don't miss the forest for the trees. Have a first things first mindset in your business. Do business with your mind and attitude first, and do business with your simple business plan first. And then all of the rest of these things will just pile neatly on top of that. And I think you'll be successful no matter what path you take, as long as you have a good business plan and a good attitude. So I kind of went around that a little bit differently, but those are my musings that I've been having over the last few months and maybe even years, and thinking about, where do people in voiceover and in business in general fail? Doesn't it seem to be more not in the fancy top stuff, but more in the foundational mindset business plan stuff?
Yeah, I think that's quite helpful because, like I've said before, this space is for that, is to get you back to the basics, to have someone you can throw ideas off of. That's at least what it is for me. And so I can fall into that. Like, okay, my Fiverr isn't going very well right now. I'm not getting a lot of jobs, stuff like that. Okay, let's switch the keywords, or let's, get another gig, or change up the, stuff like that. Instead of just continuing to work the plan that you've done, and working the plan that, it's not that difficult in one sense, but it is because you can get bored very easily.
Yes.
And so making sure you don't get bored with that, and then starting to flail or reach for other things to grab that, they probably won't in the long run get you the success that you want. So I think that's helpful for me, because I can do that. I can start to think, well, I need to change something up here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's simple, but it's not easy.
Sure.
And a lot of times it's not easy because you just have to stay the course. Once you get a business plan that works through the ups and downs, and everybody has them, you just have to keep doing it. And having that mindset, that long haul marathon mindset, as our guest this year, week again, is going to talk to us about, like he talks all the time about a long haul mindset, a marathon mindset in business.
Being faithful to that.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it won't fail you.
Right.
So, All right. Is that all you've got for?
That's it. I probably said too much. So if people, again, if they disagree with that, just feel free to ask questions or feedback. We don't all have to agree on every single thing. I'm hoping that we'll agree on attitude, mindset, and of course, a business plan. That's, I guess, my main thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
So next up, we will have the second part of the Bill DeWees interview. So we'll be right back after this.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Mike Hathcote, pro voiceover talent, and I'll be a guest on the original Father and Son voiceover podcast. So if you're interested, come check out the interview on April 11th. I'll see you then.
We are back, and this segment we have, as we promised, the second part of our Bill DeWees interview, the #1 trusted coach, voted by Voices.com for 2022. So without further ado, we will get you to that second part. So here it is.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, we'd really like to have you on again sometime and talk that through even more, because I think there's a lot of people out there that don't understand the two sides. And there are people that come to us come to me, come to VO Marketing Pro, that have been taught the old way of doing things. And they're struggling because there's usually a small group of people that are eating at the pie, if you will. Whereas, I mean, a lot of people are making $50,000 a year in voiceover. That's kind of about the average. Then there's the millionaires that are getting paid, all the actors and movie trailers. And then there's us too that make $200,000, $300,000 a year doing it this way. So I'd like to come back and talk about that sometime, unless you have something. To do that. Yeah. The other thing, before we get to the blueprint and your training and coaching, I wanted to just, again, this isn't to step on anybody's toes. It's just to kind of get it out there. This didn't make sense to me. So you were voted Voices.com's most trusted, #1 most trusted voiceover coach. 1,600 plus people voted or were surveyed, and you were voted #1. There were 9 others. And first question, do you know a fair amount of the people that are on that list?
Personally, I don't know that I know any of them personally. I mean, okay. I know who some of them are. Some I don't know at all.
Okay.
I think 1 or 2 are like Facebook friends. So I have kind of that,
I
kind of see some of that stuff. I know there's one person in particular who has made not very nice comments about me publicly.
Yeah.
So, but I won't mention her name publicly, but we know it's a woman.
Yeah. So that narrows it down a little bit. Now everybody's searching. Who is that?
And she didn't make the comment because she was a woman. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, I understand. But honestly, my family and me especially, I was a little bit, it was strange. It was like one of these things, the old Sesame Street, one of these things do not belong to the other kind of things. I was a little bit incredulous when you were voted that. And then just a few months later, you are no longer a platinum member on Voices.com, and you went to them actually and talked with them, and you have in the past, because I've heard you mention that.
Yeah.
But they've changed some things, and you talked to them. It was like this. It's like, that doesn't make sense. Was that the way it was with you? Is it like, not that everybody has to listen to you and they have to make money the way they want to make, but they have to do things their way. And I'm not saying you're just this huge fish that everybody should just, okay, Bill said this. On the other hand, when just a couple of months ago you were voted that, you'd think they'd go like this, hey, somebody that we trust, somebody that other people trust is speaking to us. What did you?
Well, yeah. The first thing I want to say is, like, there's no beef or anything between Voices.com and me. It's nothing like I have, David Cicerelli and Stephanie Cicerelli and their team. What they do is great, and I love them. What this was strictly a business decision, and I wasn't surprised because I knew where they were at, and I'll explain in a little more detail. I had come up before, and I don't know that where I'm at with my concerns is that big of an issue to them. I mean, I don't think it matters that much to them. Not that they don't care what I think, but let me explain, and it'll make more sense. The way I explained it is that, when I'm looking at anything that I do from a business perspective, any marketing, I want to have a pretty good handle on what my return on investment is for that money that I spend. Now with voices.com, I spent, I think it was $2,500 for the level of platinum membership. I think, give or take a few $100. I made a little over $3,000 last year on voices.com. Now, that being said, I don't use it as an auditioning platform. So in other words, I'm kind of at a place in my career where I have to look at time. Is it worth it? Is it worth it to me to have auditions, cattle call auditions as a primary strategy? And it doesn't make sense for me now. For one thing, it's physically exhausting and wearing. And so when I do that and I already have a pretty decent book of business to begin with, it makes it hard to do the business I already have. The other thing is, on a platform like voices.com, is you don't own that client. Voices owns that client, so if I go out and cultivate my own client, like through VoiceOver Marketing Pro or even Voice 123, which is a different platform, I can now communicate with this client and encourage continued work with them. Whereas on voices.com, it's very much a transactional type of culture. It's most of it's, I'm not saying you'd never be hired again 2 times, 3 times, but it's you're looking for a talent. Let's shop one. Let's just shop one. It's never developing a relationship and doing ongoing work, or at least rarely that's the case. So that counts against working with them as well. Another thing, the way I was getting my work was through private auditions. And I'll try to make this as brief as possible, but I think just to understand kind of what was going on, how the sausage was made in this decision, is that private auditions that was my primary strategy with Voice 123 and voices.com, where I would have my demos in such a way, tagged in volume, the types and such, that I knew how to drive traffic to my profile. And because of that, I would get a lot of attention where people would come directly to me and ask me either A, can we hire you to do this outright, or B, would you mind reading this, you and like 5 other people or 10 other people? In which case, that's a different ball game, because they heard me now. I'm not one of a million people competing for the same job they've never heard before. They like me already. And so even if I don't get this job, they still like me, have probably favorited me. They'll come back to me again in the future. Well, it went from getting regular private invitations to getting 2 and 3 or 4 private invitations a day that weren't from clients. They were from account managers within voices.com. So I would get excited thinking I've got a private audition, only to find out it was an internal cattle call put out by one of their account managers, maybe for me, and could be 30, usually it's like 50, 75 or 100 other people auditioning. So if I'm auditioning with 100 people, that's not a private audition. That's like, I might as well be with an agency. I'm trying to get away from that. Again, I'm not saying what they're doing is wrong. I'm just saying that doesn't fit where I'm at right now. And there are people who do very, very well on that platform. Their strategy is they sit and they audition all day long. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're at a place where you have a pretty big book of business already, and you're trying to cultivate ongoing clients, that might not be the best strategy for you. It's not for me. I know that.
Yeah.
So we left on perfectly good, and the response was, I understand what you're saying. Makes perfectly good sense. I don't think they're going to change anything. I don't know that they need to. I mean, unless they want to build it around my preferences, which would be awesome, but I don't know that would serve their larger strategic picture.
Yeah. Here's the thing. We've got 2 minutes left. And so I wanted to talk about your voiceover blueprint and your training. Question is Hudson and Bill, do we have enough time, or we're on a 40-minute time frame because we have the free Zoom. And so we're going to get cut off here, but I don't want to do that if you have just a few minutes. Yeah, we got a hard post here that we got to hit, and I don't want to hurry through that. So we have one of 2 choices. We can take the last minute and talk about it, or we can just simply stop. We'll edit this and we'll get you back on for just a couple of minutes, but we don't want to impose upon you, but we want to certainly highlight what you do. So Bill?
I'm seeing that now we're down to about a minute. So maybe it would be best if we did that, and nothing needs to be longer than a minute or two.
No. If we can indulge on your patience here, we also were hoping that sometime we would get you're listening to a video, or a little bit of a commercial that we can play in between segments. So that can either be done
with us
that
here,
time or some other time, whatever's easiest for you. So how about if we end this? We'll edit it so that it looks more seamless, and then I'll send another thing and we can get back on and edit it and get started on the blueprint. Is that okay?
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. So then we're going to do that in just a little
bit. Right
bit.
away after this, right?
Yeah. Okay.
We'll end, and then I'll send you another one and we can join in just a couple minutes.
I'll stay close by. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.
All right.
And Bill, if you want. So my dad and I were talking about it before. I had gotten a job before we came onto this. So obviously, Bill, you're good luck. So we're going to try and have you on every single day. But on a serious note, I just got an email from a guy and he said, "Hey, Hudson, I got your name from my audio engineer. And I was wondering if you would be willing to do a demo for me for a client request that came through and what your pay scale looks like." He said it's for a large grocer in the Northeast, but we are only looking to do a 30-second radio in Rochester, New York market that will air for 7 to 10 days. Obviously, more of a foot in the door situation than anything else. So I didn't know, as I'm new to voiceover and stuff like that, I didn't know what I should obviously reply with. And I thought maybe that would be something decent to ask two guys that I...
Well, Dad, Bill, you want to start?
No. Bill's coaching is $297. Bill's coaching says set at 200.
Oh, sorry, Bill. That's
I'm kidding. No.
Well, real quickly. So he's looking for a foot in the door. You're a brand new guy. You need work. You want work without being desperate.
Yes.
What do you think?
But I'm desperate.
But yeah. Well, the fact that he responded to you. I mean, he likes what he hears.
Okay.
And so in Rochester, that's a decent market. I tell you what, here's how I would approach it. I would for sure do a test read for him as requested. The other thing is, have you set up a rate sheet at all or a standard guide? What would be your standard local?
Let me grab it if you don't mind, because honestly, I am not the greatest still with these things off the top of my head. So usually what happens is I
never remember it.
Usually what happens, go ahead, Dad.
Sorry. No. What we
usually
encourage.
Go ahead. I'll shut up.
What we encourage people to do is the old Bill DeWees trick, which is I do almost all the time. Very carefully and graciously, judiciously, I go back and say, well, I'd be happy to throw out a number and I can provide my typical rates, but do you have a budget in mind? And that works like gold almost every time. Once in a while I get burnt, but most of the time it's like twice as much as I would have suggested. But
that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. So that's an old trick that Bill DeWees taught that I use every single day.
And if you use that method and you get that rate, then that becomes your standard rate. Working off of. So I think that's the ideal way to do it.
So I have, and these are they were based off of my dad's, and I obviously tweaked them because I'm not my dad. So for a 30-second radio and TV spot, I have for local radio, it's $100 for 30 seconds, or local TV, $150. So
I mean, here's the thing. Sometimes I will give them here's what I do. If I feel like it's kind of an urgent thing and this guy wants to get this thing wrapped up and he's asking very directly, oftentimes I will go back with my rate. But what I'll say is, the language I'll use is my standard rate is such and such. Which obviously once I do that, I'm not going to get paid twice that. So that's off the table. But what if his budget's only a fraction of that? And then you can say, but I understand that, that budgets vary wildly. And so, I'm happy to work with you. Okay. That's one option. But I would go in, I would make my standard rate higher than $100. I'd make it at least 200, maybe 250.
Wow. Okay.
And then, because he's coming to you. So he likes what he hears. He's okay. If he wanted to budget shop for a $5 spot, he would have gone to Fiverr to do that, but he didn't.
And he probably wouldn't have found me how I'm doing on Fiverr. So
yeah. So this is a gift. So I mean that's how I would
Okay.
approach it. Say, my
Wow.
standard, well, actually, I think I like your dad's language a lot better because
Okay.
you don't have to give him a number. Let them give you the number
Okay.
Yeah.
because you might be shocked at what he's willing to pay you.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, free coaching
Yeah. Thank
advice.
you.
Now,
Uh-huh.
so here's what we want to
Unbelievable.
talk about, Bill. So real quickly, in 2011, as I said right at the beginning of the interview, I found your YouTube videos and I went to work on those. And here's my point in that. And I talk about this all the time. I didn't need anything more than those. They were so full of all sorts of good stuff. And it was all free back then. Now, I'm not encouraging people to do that because now you have so much more. It's so built out, it's so organized, it's so well placed, and it's a university, if you will. Plus, you have all these training things. That's what I'd like to talk about. But the point being is I had a multiple six figure by just watching basically a lot of your blueprint
Yeah.
as you were doing it on YouTube. But now you've got the blueprint. So
Well, even on YouTube, I've got over 700 videos now, so that's even built out more. And there are a couple different types of people that approach this kind of thing. There are those like you, Todd, who say, "Okay, I'm going to sift through this, and I'm going to get the pieces I need, and figure out the order I need it, and I don't need somebody giving me input. I don't need to ask questions. I don't, I'm just going to take this. I'm going to make it work." Most people don't come from that camp, but for those that do, that's great. And if all you need is the YouTube channel, then that's awesome. More power to you.
Mhm.
But I know that most people, they want to have, would rather walk alongside somebody who's actually doing it as they're doing it, so they can ask questions, so they can watch, so they can kind of keep up to date in a more organized approach to the curriculum, if you will. It's like the difference between, okay, instead of going to college, I'm going to go to the public library and
Yeah,
get my degree. And there are some people who do that, or you want the university experience where it's organized into curriculum. You've got a peer group that you're interacting with. You've got the instructor that you're interacting with. That's forgive the long answer, but that's what the voiceover blueprint is. It really is. You mentioned university, and that in my mind, it is a voiceover university. So it really consists of every recording program that I've done and own. Now I've partnered with other people to do things. That's not in there because I don't own that, outright.
sure.
Only
Sure.
this is the stuff that's mine. And there's a lot of it. I don't even remember how many hours. I mean, it's a lot. But it covers every conceivable, marketing, tech, performance, back office. I mean, there's just, I think I already said marketing, all kinds of stuff. So you've got that, but alongside that, you have, we do live almost daily now. It comes out to, but we calculated 4 to 5 hours of live group coaching a week. So it's 26, 27 days worth of I shouldn't say that. Well, it's 4 to 5 hours a week. So whatever that comes out to, more like 20 to 22 hours. Take out the weekends. It's just weekdays. And these are opportunities to get live content. So it's up to date, but you're interacting with your instructor, be it me or Mallory or Mike Hathcote, or we have a small faculty of folks who handle different topics. And then you have access to all of the archived coaching sessions, which are in the hundreds now. I mean, literally hundreds of them. In addition to that, we have the private group on Facebook, which is kind of this is your peer group, but it's people who are brand new and people who have been doing this for years and making a lot of money. So you've got the broad spectrum, but they're all helping each other. So you've got that support. And then in addition to that, as I work during the day, if I'm not under a non-disclosure, of course, if I am, I can't share that. But when I'm not, I just turn on my camera and let you watch as I work. You can watch my desktop as I edit audio and all the stuff that I do during the course of the day. So you can kind of peek over my shoulder. So it's a comprehensive approach. And that's the voiceover blueprint.
And all of those things are critically important for everybody. One of the things that I've told you this, one of the things that I really like, I'll tune in every once in a while when my schedule allows for the live streaming that you do as far as on your Facebook group. And
Yeah.
sometimes you'll get something, you're very honest, you're very transparent, which is wonderful. But you'll say, this was a challenge, or this was a victory, or here's how I went through that. And to me, that's gold. Now, the blueprint is something you can listen and you're going to get lots of content, but you can also get that live streaming there on Facebook. And I pick through that and I say, oh, that's a good point. Or, wow, that's something interesting. That's something good I'm going to employ. So those watching you work is, I think, unheard of in the
I'm not aware. Yeah, I'm not aware of anybody else who does it. And I think it is important to get an honest look, because we'd be lying. Any of us would be lying to say, well, it's all fun and games all the time. I love what I do, and there's nothing else I would rather do. But some days are hard. Some days you don't win. Some days you get beat up pretty bad. That's just in any business. But as long as you're winning more than you're losing, then you're going to, ultimately, having a voiceover business and self-employment takes a great deal of, it's a different mindset than an employment mindset, because as a matter of fact, I'm going to talk about this soon in an upcoming video, but talking about it's the ultimate self-responsibility, because I can't point my finger at somebody else and say, well, it's their fault. I can't, I can say, well, it's the economy, my boss, my employer. But that, I'm the only person who has the power to change it now. I can't complain to my boss. I am it's my business. So how am I going to fix this? How am I going to make it right? And I love that kind of not only freedom, but responsibility. And so anyhow, you get a chance to see that, the good, the bad, the ugly, you get to see it all.
Yeah, it's very instructive. And just one last thing, you now are doing, and I don't know how long you're going to keep it up or how often, you're doing YouTube streaming most mornings, which is like, again, having a friend to see regularly and to communicate with. It's just nice.
Well, recently I was thinking, you know what, it's sometimes it's hard to keep all the plates spinning between voiceover and voiceover training. And I realized that one of the things I need to do is I need to engage on a very regular basis, not just with my blueprint folk, but just with folks in general who have an interest in voiceover and in voiceover training, because I would never expect anybody to trust me sight unseen, or the first couple times they see me. We need to kind of form a relationship. You need to get a chance to see what I'm about, what I'm trying to do. So I thought, every day, why don't I just flip on the camera for 15 minutes, get on YouTube, and let's just talk about what's going on, and it might be exciting one day. It might be relatively boring the next. It just depends on what's happening. But I try to have something worthwhile to share during that 15 minutes together that you can take with you for the day. It's not highly produced and planned. It's just, we're starting the work. This is me getting ready to start my work day, just sharing my thoughts for the day. And I hope folks are finding it helpful and useful.
I think it's one of the reasons that you have become, in a lot of people's lives, a trusted voiceover coach and friend, whether they hire you specifically. And it's because I think a big reason is because you're still a working voiceover talent. You aren't saying, well, 10 years ago when I did this, or please don't ask me if I'm making any money doing this, that kind of thing. I think that lends a lot of credibility to your voice, that, hey, I'm still out there, still figuring out the market, still working, and not that you always will have to do that. Maybe that won't be part of the thing 10 years from now or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that's really important to me, to be that type of a person, to be doing it regularly. And you do it every single day.
Well, and thanks. There are so many voices out there, not just a voiceover. I mean, you open up your Facebook, and it's like, it's crazy. I mean, there's so many people selling stuff, and it's like, who can you believe? Who can you not believe? And I could sit here and say, well, believe me, I'm not going to steer you wrong. I mean, seriously. So why don't you just come along, just check out, I'll just show you what I do. And you can determine for yourself if I'm full of it or not. And if I am what I say that I am, is this worth your time and effort? Maybe it's not for everybody. And frankly, a lot of people aren't willing to work as hard as I do. And I've had people tell me that, they say, oh, once I explained it to them, they're like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah. I would rather sit on my couch and keep waiting for my agent to call me. I mean, literally, I've been told that before. And hey, that's fine. It's your business. You can do it however you want to. Yeah. But at the end of the day, hopefully you've got a pretty honest picture of what this looks like.
Well, you've been very generous with your time, not only, today, but many, many times that we've asked you to help out. And so we appreciate it. Any last
Anything for
thoughts?
you guys. I mean, seriously, it's a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for the time and our relationship and you allowing us to serve you and you serving us. So we appreciate it, Bill.
Well, I appreciate my relationship with Voiceover Marketing Pro, and I don't think I actually said it on this podcast, but I'm a proud customer, and really respect and appreciate what you do, and I'm thankful for what you guys do. And I think direct marketing, and again, not to go off on a whole thing, but when it comes to marketing, I think the direct marketers are the ones who are going to win that battle. A lot of things come and go, but there's nothing like a direct contact to a prospective client.
Yeah.
It's always been that way. It always will be that way. Nothing beats that. And if you can do that, and you guys can do that, you can scale that. That's the beauty of it, because it's hard to do, a ton of those every day when you're trying to record voiceovers and all of that. But I know that while I'm working, you guys are working on my behalf. And that's exciting.
Yeah.
And so I think you guys are out in front of the curve. And again, I'm just excited to be a part of it. And I think eventually everybody else will catch up and realize that VO Marketing Pro is the place to be.
Oh, thank you. We'll put that in writing.
You put it into a commercial and you can plug the heck out of that if you want to.
Okay.
And I mean it sincerely.
Well, thank you. Well, we appreciate your time. We aren't going to keep you any longer unless you have something you really wanted to say about, an add-on or whatever, but we're good to go if.
Oh, I think I used up all my words for the day, which my wife will be thankful for later when I get to work, by the way.
And there you have it. That was Bill DeWees once again. And we are very thankful for Bill being the first guest on our podcast, being the voice of our podcast. If you have any
sponsor of our podcast.
Exactly. Sponsor of our podcast. And if you have any questions or you want to use Bill's coaching, go to BillDeWeesLive.com and search his coaching, what he does, his blueprint, stuff like that. He's a very nice guy, so he doesn't bite. So,
and don't we have also, are we going to have links?
Yeah.
As well? Okay.
Links to Bill DeWees Live and everything like that.
Okay.
So we will have those either below in the description, or we might even flash them right on the screen right here. So
right here.
So we'll have Damon beyond that. He's our visual guy.
Yeah.
So, all right. Next segment, we will have our numbers for the week. John will be here. Like I said, we got a new microphone, so his voice will be floating in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So we will be back in just a moment. Well, welcome back to our third segment where we talk about our numbers, Dad's numbers, my numbers, and the VOMP numbers. So John's going to be here in just a moment. So once he comes in, he'll give a little wave.
He's here.
Oh, he's here. Why don't you give a little wave to it if you don't mind? There it is. There's his arm.
Just so we know there's a real live person that's talking to us.
Yeah,
I'm here.
And he's on our new mic.
Yeah, he's floating. Like we said, his voice is just floating out there everywhere.
Boy.
So
There we go.
Yeah,
We're
he's
good?
on mic.
All right.
Yeah, just nice and tight there. And it was just, our podcast is just growing.
Yeah,
just leaps and bounds. I mean, we've got so much money pouring in that we just decided we got to upgrade. We got to buy more things.
so much money was coming in, we just had to get rid of the money. It's just, what do we do with it? So, well, why don't what we do is we'll start with John's numbers for VOMP and get the exciting stuff out of the way, and then we'll go to the more boring stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right, Johnny, whenever you're ready.
Okay. So we had 71 warm responses this week.
Is that a record?
I feel like it's got to be.
That's
close.
a lot.
I mean, I don't remember.
A lot of,
Yeah.
A new record.
So that seems like it's.
that's like
a record
over an
for sure.
average of like 2 per person. I know not everybody
Sure,
got 2.
sure.
Some people got more than that.
That's true.
More got, some people got less, some people got more,
Yep.
but that's an average of over 2 per person of the
Yep.
people that are with VO Marketing Pro.
That's really good and encouraging to see those numbers, and especially record breakers like this one.
Yeah.
So I think. And then we had what's that number? Yeah, 23 auditions.
Wow.
I think that's a record.
That
too.
sounds like a record, yeah.
So I guess that makes sense when you have that many warm clients. That doesn't not necessarily that way all the time, but that seems like makes sense with the warm responses. So, we're waiting to hear back on quite a few of those. And then we had 7 jobs, and I have Jennifer Keister, 1, Mike Hathcote, 1.
We're holding you accountable here.
I know.
That's 2.
Jack Hicks times 2.
No.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Noel Romano times 2.
Wow. 6. Who's the 7th?
And then Francisco, and I'm pretty sure
Francisco.
I'd say his last name wrong, so I'll just hold off for his sake and ours. But he had a Spanish-speaking job.
Wow.
So,
Great, Francisco. Awesome.
I'm jealous because over the years, and I told Christine Brito this too, that if I had $1 for every single time somebody asked me to do a Spanish, and I took German, and I don't know any of that. Sprechen die Deutsch, Wiener Schnitzel, Volkswagen.
Yep.
Volkswagen.
Probably best you aren't doing it.
Didn't even say it right.
That's the best I can do.
Anyway.
And any other things? We have some new people that are joining VO Marketing Pro. Not that you name names or anything.
No, Joe's kind of the guru, and with regards to joining, I have some interactions back and forth with some of them, which is always nice to get to know some people. But I don't know anybody off the top of my head that I can remember right now, to be honest with you.
VO Marketing Pro is a proud sponsor of the original
Yes,
Father Son Voiceover podcast.
Whether they wanted to be or not,
exactly, and that's why we got that new microphone, because they're just on board. They're just pouring
100%.
pouring money and let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, we have links.
Yes, we have links to VO Marketing Pro
Pro
if you're interested in taking your email marketing to the next level.
Yeah.
So,
yep, we got that, and we have a roster that you can join. We can share specifics on that. We have some criteria for that and meeting that, but we definitely are looking for more talent. So, and like you had said earlier, the if you have a different language that you're able to speak fluently, we would really enjoy that.
help diversify a little bit, because there's a lot of English male speaking and English female speaking. So if you can get something a little bit more.
Yeah, you'd really stand out on our voice roster. I think are there 20 voiceover talent right now, including Hudson and me?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Making me sound like I'm not a voice talent. There's 20 voice talents, and then there's Hudson.
Well, I said Hudson and me.
Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better.
Well, thanks a lot for all your work, John.
Yeah.
You and
Joe Bobby.
And Demond. Demond, you got to come out here for a second. We forgot to introduce you. We always have to introduce everybody because we don't want people to be coming right out here. Come by, me. Dad.
Just give us a smile, Demond. Give us a little.
There we go.
There he is.
All right.
There he is.
He's shy. Little camera shy, I guess.
Yeah. So do we need
Hudson?
You
Not
got
so much.
Yeah, you got more.
likes to
I could
see
work
his
on
face.
that, couldn't I?
And here's
Well, John comes on and he's just bashing the talent.
Well, he knows how to work with talent because he's worked with me for all these years.
Keep the talent happy.
That's what he always says. Keep the talent happy.
Yeah.
And whether he manages my Fiverr gig.
Yep.
And does a great job. And you did marketing for me for the first. You were kind of the start. You started that, and then Andy took over from you.
Yeah, I believe it was in this room that I started off.
Wow,
I would come up here.
So many memories in this room.
Great,
so many
great
good
stuff. Yeah.
I should have him do my Fiverr gig. I could use some help.
A little kickstart, huh?
Yeah.
Do you want me to do my numbers first or
please.
yours? Okay.
Please do.
So let's see. My numbers, I didn't have any new clients. It's been a few weeks. I think I have like 12 so far. So I'm probably like averaging one a week, but it's been a few weeks.
For this year,
Yeah.
you're saying? Okay.
Well, we're still seeing in VO Marketing Pro still with, we're doing our best to make sure that we, make sure that the times that we send out are as beneficial for people as possible. There are times like with these spring breaks that are happening that we do get a fair amount of out of office or on vacation stuff, and so we're monitoring that. So it sounds like that's possible with as your marketing goes. So does some of ours. So that kind of could correlate a little bit.
So you're trying to maximize the rate of
who
when people are in the office, just like you guys don't send out emails on Monday or Friday.
Correct.
Because people come into the office and delete. Or Friday, by about half the day, they're like, oh, it's time for the weekend. So they're just, anything comes in, they're not looking for it. So
we're
anyway.
really working hard as a company to make sure that every email that you're sending out counts, or that we're sending out on your behalf counts. And so makes sense. Spring break, people are tired of it. I mean, we've got snow here again in April.
We talked about
so,
that,
yeah. Anyway, sorry I interrupted.
No problem. That was good. Thank you. So I had 3 auditions and I won 1, but that was with a current client. My platforms this week were $2,831.20, and my direct email marketing was $4,334.99. My total, $7,166.19. $7,166.19 for my week.
All right, would you like to hear my numbers?
I do. I definitely do.
Well, so I had 2 auditions, waiting to hear back from those. So we'll see what happens there, like we talked about last week. And then I had 5 warm replies, a little bit less than last week. I think I had 13, so that's okay. And then I did, with the person that I'm working with on Upwork, looks like I did 8 PowerPoints this week, so that's $125 for Upwork, which is a platform. And then Fiverr, I had 1 job for $24. So that's like, what is that, $149? And then I did some editing for you, which was what I do all the time. So I just add that to my numbers, and that was $120. So a grand total of $269. But I am waiting. I did have a client of mine, past client, that I've worked with over the last couple of years, or the last year, because I've only been in voiceover for a year, so it couldn't be couple. They sent me a script. I sent back kind of a guide read for them, and so then they'll come back and then we'll talk about. I didn't, but I don't know what I don't exactly know what it'll be for price, but hopefully they'll get back to me soon, and we will. I can add that to my either next week's totals or whatever, and make sure I communicate that. So,
well, that's great. And I don't know if you had any other questions or comments, but I don't know if we said this. We really appreciate everybody that tunes into our podcast. We had a lot watched this last time, a few people feedback. Again, if you have questions or you mentioned something, we share our numbers. If people want to share their numbers, you don't have to be bashful. Tell us what you're making if you want to do that, and where you're making it. That's always very interesting. And if you have questions, we can try our best to answer it. I'm not an expert in everything, but we can try, or we might have an expert on.
Yeah, definitely. So like Dad said, please, use the comment sections to ask questions, give feedback, whether you like it or not. And also, if you want to share your numbers, like you said, we'd like to hear how people are doing. It's not like a race or anything like that, but if there's any way we can help and use transparency to do that, then we'd like to do that. So also, if you are looking for the original Father-Son Voiceover podcast links, we have a Facebook, we have our YouTube, which some of you already know about, and then we have our podcast is on Apple Podcasts. So if you don't have time to watch it on YouTube, I think you can download it, or it's probably free on Apple Podcasts. And so you can listen to it if you're driving or something like that, if you're that interested. So that's there. Bill DeWees, once again, BillDeWeesLive.com for his coaching and blueprint, and then VOMarketingPro.com, and get in touch with either Joe or John, and they'll set you right up. So,
love to hear from you.
Yeah, definitely. So is that about what we've got?
That's all I got.
I think we're going to go out and make a snowman after this. So
in April.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for tuning in. We hope this was helpful, and we will see you on the next one.
Bye.